1936. Herbert W. Armstrong, the founder of the Worldwide Church of God, told his congregation that the rapture was going to happen that year. And after his failed prophecy, he changed the date 3 more times. My name is William A. Horton, you are you, and together we are one. And if you haven't already noticed, today we're going to be talking about the rapture. And it's something that's been made very popular with the Left Behind series. I want to start off by saying this. Jesus himself said that no one knows the time or the date when the second coming of the Lord is, except for the Father, except for God in heaven. So I'm not here to try to tell you when the rapture is going to happen. I'm just going to tell you the 3 major viewpoints of the rapture in the church today. But in the end, whichever viewpoint you see, we need to remember, we don't need to have a rapture mentality, we need to have a harvest mentality. We need to take off the grave clothes, and we need to put on the clothes of a bride. Because in the end, we are the bride of Christ, and Christ is coming back for his bride in victory. So we're all on the same page. We need to get a few definitions out there. The first one being the rapture. While the rapture is not actually found in the Bible, what it means is to be called up into heaven. So all the Christians will be called up into heaven. And the second one is the millennial reign. This is a 1,000-year period where Christ will come back to earth in his second coming, and he will reign on earth for 1,000 years. And the last one, of course, is the tribulation. The Bible tells us that the tribulation is going to be 7 years long, and it'll be 7 years of worldwide devastation and misery. Interestingly enough, all of these different viewpoints use the same scriptures to defend their thesis. So these verses from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 say, "The Lord will ascend down from heaven onto earth with a loud shout, like trumpets, and the dead will rise and they will raise with Christ first. But then anyone who's still alive will raise up with the Lord into the clouds, and they will be with him forever." And the next verse that's used in all these viewpoints of the rapture is 2 Thessalonians 2:8. This verse is saying the man of lawlessness will be revealed. That means the Antichrist. The Antichrist will be revealed, and Jesus Christ will defeat him. Probably the most popular viewpoint when it comes to the rapture is the pre-tribulation rapture. That means that the Christians will be called up, they'll be raptured before the 7 years of tribulation. So, in this viewpoint, the rapture and the second coming of Christ are actually separate things. They believe that the rapture happens, and according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 15 through 18, then there'll be the 7 years of the tribulation, of the worldwide devastation, followed by the second coming of Christ, which is talked about in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. Following that will be the 1,000 years millennial reign and then eternity. The next point of view on the rapture I'm going to tell you about is called the Mid-Tribulation Rapture. And again, this starts off with the tribulation going for 3.5 years. Halfway through the tribulation, all the Christians are raptured according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 15 through 18. The last 3.5 years of the tribulation happens, and then the second coming of Christ happens according to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. In this viewpoint, the rapture and the second coming of Christ again are at separate times. The last viewpoint I want to talk about when it comes to the rapture is the post-tribulation rapture. And it's just like it sounds. The rapture happens after the tribulation. Now they use the same 2 verses, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 15 through 18, and 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, but they add one additional scripture in there, and that's Matthew 24, verses 15 through 28. In this viewpoint, they believe the tribulation begins, according to Matthew 24, 15 through 28. This verse is telling us that there'll be a great anguish, such a great anguish that the world has never seen such devastation, and they'll never see it again. And in fact, unless this time period is shortened, there'll be no one that survives. But it says that it will be shortened because of God's chosen people. Unlike the other 2 viewpoints, This viewpoint believes that the rapture and the second coming, or the millennial reign, will happen at the exact same time. They believe, according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 15 through 18, that Christ will descend from heaven and we will be caught up into the clouds. And according to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8, Christ will come down and he'll expose the Antichrist, and then he'll win a victorious battle. My name is William A. Horton. You are you, and together we are one. Thanks for joining me.